Let me tell you about Dumuzi, my heart and soul. From the very first moment our eyes met in the gardens of our youth, I knew my life would never be the same. Dumuzi was more than just a man to me. He was the rhythm of my days, the comfort in my nights, the one who made my spirit soar. Our love wasn't just a spark, it was a force that could shake the heavens. It was as if the gods themselves had woven our destinies together, binding us with threads of passion and hope. Every sunrise felt brighter, every breeze gentler when we were together. When he smiled, the world seemed to pause. His laughter was like music, echoing through the fields and halls, making even the hardest days feel light. In his eyes, I saw a future full of promise and adventure. He was my other half, gentle and strong, a shepherd who nurtured everything he touched. His hands, calloused from work, were always tender with me. Together, we wandered the fields, dreaming of what we could build side by side. We dreamed big, of thrones, of legacy, of ruling together as equals. We spoke of a future where our love would shape the fate of our people, where our names would be remembered for generations. Dumuzi was meant for greatness, and I was right there beside him, his queen. We stood together, shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever the world would throw at us. We were unstoppable, or so we thought. Our laughter filled the palace halls, and our love seemed to shield us from every worry. We believed nothing could come between us. But when you shine that bright, shadows grow long. The more we loved, the more the world seemed to watch, and not always with kind eyes. Jealousy crept in, festering in those who watched us. Whispers grew in the corners of the palace, and envy twisted the hearts of those who longed for what we had. We were so wrapped up in our love, we missed the storm gathering. The signs were there, dark looks, hushed voices, but we chose to see only each other. We didn't see the vipers in the grass waiting to strike. Danger hid in plain sight, masked by smiles and false friendship. Our biggest mistake? Believing our love made us untouchable. We thought our bond was a shield, but it only made us a target. And that, my friends, was the beginning of our undoing. Our love, so fierce and bright, became the very thing that drew the darkness to us, setting the stage for a tragedy we never saw coming. My family adored Dumuzi. My father Nanar and my mother loved him. Even Utu, my brother, saw his worth. Our union felt blessed, a joining of two powerful families. I wasn't content to be a shadow. I am Inanna, queen of heaven and earth. Dumuzi was my partner, not my ruler. Together, we planned to lead the Anunnaki dynasty, to bring a golden age. He had the people's love, I had the divine right. We were a force for good, ready to change the world. All he needed was the crown, and I would make sure he got it. We were so close to victory I could taste it. But fate had other plans. But every paradise has its serpent. Ours was Seth. Jealous and cunning, he couldn't stand to see Dumuzi rise. Seth whispered poison, starting with Marduk, also known as Amen-Ra, turning Nephthys into his pawn. Nephthys, desperate for an heir, was convinced by Marduk to seduce Dumuzi. On a night of revelry, disguised and determined, she took what wasn't hers. Dumuzi, caught off guard, was ensnared in Marduk's scheme. From that night, a child was conceived, Anubis. The scandal shattered our world, just as Marduk intended. He knew Seth's jealousy would ignite. Seth accused Dumuzi, Osiris, of taking his wife into adultery. Marduk set the dominoes falling, all aimed at destroying my rule. One night's betrayal became the wedge that split families. The seeds of tragedy were sown, and Marduk watched, satisfied, as chaos bloomed, and this is my perspective. After that night, darkness crept in. Dumuzi was haunted by nightmares, visions of gala demons dragging him to the underworld. He begged me for protection, terrified and broken. I promised to shield him, but dread gnawed at my heart. I told him to hide with his sister, Inanna. He fled, disguised, running from fate. The dreams were more than nightmares. They were warnings. He saw omens everywhere, a falcon snatching a lamb, his flock scattered. He knew his time was short. I prayed my love could save him, but fate was closing in. All I could do was hope my power would be enough. But deep down, I knew the end was near. The darkness was coming for us both. While Dumuzi hid in the shadows, hoping for safety, the trap was already being set in motion by his own brother Seth, whose jealousy burned like wildfire. Seth's rage to his own advantage, whispering poison into his followers' ears, convincing them that Dumuzi was not just a rival, but a threat to everything they held dear. Together, they painted my beloved husband as a traitor, weaving lies and half-truths, turning friends into enemies and justifying their cruelty with false accusations. Dumuzi, a gentle shepherd and not a warrior, was thrown in the river, his heart pounding with fear and desperation as the water closed in around him. He tried to escape, fighting for his life, but Seth had nailed him in and sealed the coffin tight. Seth, driven by rage and manipulation, struck the fatal blow that ended it all. My love, my heart was gone, his body claimed by the turbulent waters of life, lost forever to the river's depths. My future, my king, my hope for happiness, all of it washed away by the bitter tides of jealousy and ambition, leaving me alone in my grief. Seth may have wielded the weapon, but I felt like Marduk orchestrated every move, pulling the strings from the shadows, ensuring his own rise to power. Dumuzi died not for a crime he was set up for, but for another man's ambition, a pawn sacrificed in a ruthless game of power and betrayal. I will never forgive Marduk or Seth for what they did, nor will I forget the pain they caused. My heart burns with anger and a vow for justice. In a single, cruel instant, my world was shattered. My dreams, my love, my very soul left in ruins, scattered like broken pottery among the remnants of what once was. After Dumuzi's death, grief nearly crushed me, but I was pregnant, our child, a miracle of the light. When my son was born, I named him Tammuz, also known as Haru, my little Horus. He was Dumuzi's image, a symbol of hope. My family gathered, mourning and celebrating all at once. I vowed to protect Haru with everything I had. Seth's shadow loomed, threatening my son's life. So I hid him in the marshes, far from danger. I became a lioness, fierce and vigilant. Every day was a struggle, but Haru gave me purpose. All my dreams now rested on him. I would raise him to reclaim his father's throne. The fight wasn't over, it had just begun. The only person I would let take him was his grandfather Enki and his uncle Tahuti. Enki would take him to the Abzu and take him on boat rides around the world. He loves Haru because he saw his father in him. Enki loved my husband Dumuzi so much. Marduk got to Haru. Secretly, when he was a baby, Marduk held Haru up to the stars and swore to protect him and be his guardian angel. Marduk in his heart felt somewhat responsible for his brother Dumuzi, also known as Osiris' death. I never let him around Seth, who Marduk was secretly protecting him from. I am Inanna, goddess of love and war. But let me tell you more about my sister, Ereshkigal, queen of the great below. While I claimed the heavens, she was given the underworld, a kingdom of shadows and silence. We are two sides of the same coin, light and darkness, each necessary. Her power was not born of sunlight, but of solitude and sorrow. Heartbreak became her crucible, forging her into a queen who wore sorrow as armor. Ereshkigal did not accept her fate. She consumed it, weaving darkness into her being. This is the story of a queen forged in shadow. In her desolate kingdom, Ereshkigal needed more than shadows. She needed power. Men, mortal and divine, wandered to her gates, drawn by whispers of her beauty or by foolish quests. She saw them not as lovers, but as resources, vessels of energy and knowledge. She became a collector of souls, not just the dead, but the living who dared trespass. She let men believe they could conquer her, only to feed her throne with their essence. For a time they felt like kings, but once spent they were discarded, dissolving into dust. Do not seek the queen of the great below, for she devours all she touches. In their fear they gave her what she needed most, power. Then came Nergal, god of plague and war, arrogant, defiant. At a feast of the gods, he insulted Ereshkigal by disrespecting her emissary. She demanded he be brought to her not as a guest, but as a prisoner. Nergal descended into the Kur, stripped of his power at each gate, arriving humbled but unbroken. He expected wrath, but Ereshkigal saw something different, a mirror of her own strength. His defiance was not disrespect, but a refusal to bow without cause. He met her gaze, equal to equal, even in vulnerability. This was no moth to her flame, but a dragon facing another dragon. For the first time, Ereshkigal felt curiosity, not cold resolve. She did not kill him, she tested him with the horrors of her realm. He did not break or falter, meeting every challenge with grim determination. He saw her as a sovereign, not a monster or a prize. He respected the power she forged from pain and did not fear it. In that respect, a new possibility began to bloom. Two equals, recognizing each other in the darkness. The passion between them was a storm, two powerful souls colliding. For 6 days and nights they forgot their crowns and found a raw, honest connection. Nergal did not try to save her from darkness. He entered it, walked beside her, and saw its beauty. When he left, the underworld mourned his absence. Ereshkigal felt longing, not loss. Nergal returned, not as conqueror but as partner. He chose her darkness, her power, her throne. He stood before her, declaring his place was by her side, not as consort, but as king. Together, they ruled, Ereshkigal and Nergal, king and queen of the underworld. Theirs was not a story of rescue, but of alliance. He did not bring light to her darkness. He added his own shadow, forging a greater power. The throne was no longer exile, but a symbol of formidable partnership. Two sovereigns balanced in defiance and passion. The final kingdom ruled by equals. My sister's story is not a tragedy, but one of empowerment. Given a kingdom of dust, she built an empire. Handed heartbreak, she forged a crown. In a world where goddesses are often pawns, Ereshkigal became a force of her own. Her power was fierce, self-sufficient, and unapologetic. She did not seek love or approval, only strength. She became the predator, not the prey. Nergal's arrival did not diminish her, it amplified her power. Their union was a testament to her journey. She waited for an equal, not a savior. Together they ruled as partners, their connection making them stronger. Let poets sing of my light, but do not forget the power in the deep, silent dark. Ereshkigal teaches us, our deepest wounds can become our greatest strengths. Sometimes embracing our darkness is the path to true power. Her throne stands eternal, a testament to the enduring strength of a queen who embraced the abyss. I am Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, sovereign of the shining city of Uruk. My name is spoken in every corner of the land, and my power is felt in every breath of wind that stirs the golden plains. I am the morning and the evening star, the goddess who walks among mortals and gods alike. The sun rises at my command, casting its golden light over the fields of barley and wheat. The crops grow tall and strong for me, nourished by the blessings I bestow. My people gather in the temples, their voices raised in songs of praise and gratitude, offering tributes of fruit, bread, and incense. They adore me, for I am their protector, their queen, their hope in times of plenty and in times of need. Yet even as I am surrounded by adoration and abundance, my heart is restless. There is a hunger within me, a longing that cannot be satisfied by power or praise alone. I am greedy for more knowledge, more dominion, more mysteries to unravel. The world above is mine, but I yearn for what lies hidden, what is forbidden, what is unknown. My gaze turns downward to the shadowy realm beneath the earth, the great below. It is the domain of my sister, Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld. Her kingdom is a place of secrets and silence where the dead dwell and the living dare not tread. I am drawn to it, compelled by curiosity and ambition alike. When news reached me that Gugalana, Ereshkigal's husband, had died, I saw an opportunity. The city mourned, and the air was thick with sorrow. But beneath my veil of mourning, another thought took root, a chance to claim a new throne, to extend my reign into the depths where no living queen had ever ruled. I prepared myself for the descent, donning the garments of mourning, my face hidden behind a veil. Outwardly, I was the grieving sister, but within, I was a conqueror, determined to seize the underworld for myself. My heart pounded with anticipation and fear, for I knew the journey would be perilous. Before I left, I called my most loyal servant Ninshubur to my side. I spoke to her in hushed tones, my words heavy with warning. If I do not return in 3 days, go to the gods. Plead for my life, beg for their mercy. Do not let me be forgotten in the darkness below. Ninshubur's eyes shone with loyalty and worry, but she promised to do as I asked. I was not blind to the dangers. The underworld is a place of no return. a land where even the gods tread carefully. But my ambition burned brighter than any fear. I was determined to face whatever trials awaited me, to claim the power that lay hidden in the shadows. With resolve in my heart, I left behind my temples, my city, and the adoring crowds. I walked alone, my footsteps echoing on the ancient stones, toward the distant mountains that guard the entrance to the underworld. The path was long and lonely, but I pressed on, driven by a purpose greater than myself. As I journeyed, the world of the living faded behind me. The familiar sights and sounds of Uruk grew distant, replaced by silence and shadow. I felt the weight of my choice, the enormity of what I was about to do. I was Inanna, queen of the great above, but now I marched boldly into the heart of the great below. I carried with me the hopes of the living and the ambitions of a goddess who would not be satisfied with half a kingdom. I stood before the great gate of the underworld, my resolve unshaken. I was ready to claim what I believed was mine by right and by destiny. The darkness beckoned, and I answered its call. Yet, as I paused at the threshold, a shiver of doubt crept into my heart. I did not know the price I would pay for my ambition. The underworld is a place of secrets, and every secret demands a sacrifice. I stepped forward, leaving behind the world I knew, and entered the unknown. I did not yet understand the true nature of my sister's kingdom, nor the trials that awaited me. My journey had begun, and there would be no turning back. I did not go as a simple mourner. I went as a queen adorned with the 7 divine powers, the me. On my head, the Shugura crown. Around my neck, lapis lazuli beads. On my chest, the breastplate of passion. I wore the ribbons of allure, my golden ring, my royal robe, and carried my measuring rod and line. Each item was a symbol of my authority, a piece of my divinity. I intended to awe my sister, to show her the splendor of the great above. My pride was my shield, my arrogance my guide. I was a vision of power, a walking constellation, ready to face the darkness. I would enter my sister's realm as nothing less than a queen. I was ready for the gates. The descent began. At the first gate, the gatekeeper Neti confronted me. "Who are you?" I declared. "I am Inanna, Queen of Heaven, come to mourn my sister's husband." Neti was unmoved. He reported my arrival to Ereshkigal. My sister's response was law. Let her enter, but at each of the 7 gates she must remove 1 royal garment. My heart sank, but I pressed on. At the first gate, Neti demanded my crown. I removed the Shugura, my head suddenly bare, a piece of my power gone. I was to be stripped, humbled, and tested. I had come too far to turn back. The descent was no longer a show of power, it was a surrender. I stepped forward, leaving my crown behind. The underworld's law was absolute. My unraveling had begun. Through the second gate, Neti demanded my lapis lazuli beads, my link to the heavens. I surrendered them, feeling my celestial authority slip away. At the third gate, I gave up my breastplate, the symbol of love and desire. With each loss, I felt my voice and power diminish. The silence pressed in, the darkness deepened. I was being unmade, stripped of my story and strength. No longer the dazzling goddess, I became a shadow, a whisper. My journey was a slow erasure. I pressed on, each step heavier than the last. The gates demanded everything. I was becoming less of heaven, more of the earth below. At the fourth gate, Neti took my golden ring, my symbol of eternal power. I slipped it from my finger, my claim to rule gone. At the fifth gate, I surrendered my measuring rod and line, the tools of justice and creation. My defenses were gone. I was no longer a shaper of worlds. The path sloped downward, my balance faltered. I was now subject to the judgment of others. Each item lost was a piece of my identity. I was defenseless, vulnerable, and alone. The underworld stripped me bare. I walked on, powerless. At the sixth gate, Neti took the ribbons of allure from my forehead, my power to enchant, gone. My gaze dimmed, my presence faded. Only my royal robe remained. At the seventh gate, I untied it and let it fall. I stood naked, stripped of all power, all status, all identity. I was not Inanna, Queen of Heaven. I was nothing, a naked woman at the edge of the land of the dead. "You may enter," Neti said. I stepped through, leaving the last piece of myself behind. The final gate closed. I entered the throne room of Ereshkigal as an Eastern star. The throne room was a cavern of cold and decay. Ereshkigal sat on her black throne, her eyes burning with ancient grief and hatred. The 7 judges, the Anunnaki, surrounded her. I stood naked and trembling, all pride gone. Ereshkigal saw me as an invader, not a sister. Her gaze was a weapon, her word a sentence. She spoke a word of judgment, a shriek that echoed through the cavern. The judge's verdict was final. My body grew cold, my flesh turned green. I was no longer alive, I was a corpse hung on a hook. Ereshkigal had killed me with her judgment. I was a warning to all who would trespass. I, Inanna, was dead. 3 days passed in silence and shadow as the world above held its breath. The sun rose and set over the vast Mesopotamian plains, marking the passage of time with a heavy sense of loss. Each day felt longer than the last, as if the very land mourned with those who waited. In the world above, Ninshubur, my loyal companion, was consumed by grief. She donned sackcloth and ashes, her cries echoing through the temple halls. With unwavering devotion, she pleaded with the gods, offering incense and prayers, hoping to move their hearts and bring me back from the depths. Yet my grandfather Enlil, the lord of the air, and my father Nannar, the moon god, turned away. They refused to intervene, their faces carved in stone, unmoved by mortal suffering. My ambition, they said, had led me to the underworld, and for that I must bear the consequences alone. The laws of the gods were unyielding, and mercy seemed far away. But Ninshubur did not give up. She journeyed to Enki, the god of wisdom and deep waters, whose mind was as vast as the rivers he ruled. Enki, known for his cleverness and compassion, listened to her plea with a thoughtful heart. Enki would not abandon me. Unlike the others, he saw beyond punishment and pride. He understood the balance between justice and mercy, and he resolved to act where others would not. With his wisdom, Enki created 2 mysterious beings, the Kurgara and the Galatur. He shaped them from the clay of the earth, imbuing them with the essence of life and the power to move between worlds. Into their hands he placed the food and water of life, gifts that could restore what was lost. Enki sent these beings on a perilous mission. Their task was clear: descend into the underworld, a realm of shadows and sorrow, and bring hope where none remained. They carried with them not only Enki's gifts, but also his plan, a plan born of empathy and understanding. Find Ereshkigal in her pain, Enki instructed. Echo her cries, share in her suffering, and show her the compassion she has never known. Only then will her heart soften. When Ereshkigal, moved by their empathy, offers a gift in gratitude, the beings must ask for only one thing: the lifeless body of Inanna. No riches, no power, just the chance for me to return. The Kurgara and Galatur slipped past the 7 gates, unseen and unheard. They found Ereshkigal writhing in agony, her cries filling the underworld. With gentle voices, they echoed her pain, offering solace where there had been none. Their empathy bridged the chasm between life and death. Touched by their understanding, Ereshkigal's heart was moved. For the first time, she felt seen in her suffering. In gratitude, she granted their request, agreeing to release my body. The 2 beings gently took my body from the hook where it hung, lifeless and cold. They carried me with reverence, honoring the journey I had endured. With great care, they sprinkled me with the food and water of life, the sacred gifts of Enki. Slowly, breath returned to my lungs and warmth to my limbs. I was resurrected, brought back from the brink of oblivion by wisdom, compassion, and the courage of those who would not give up. Yet, even in triumph, the laws of the underworld could not be ignored. Every return from death demands a price, and the balance between worlds must be maintained. My journey was not yet over, for the wisdom of Enki had saved me, but the cost of my resurrection still awaited. I returned to life, but the Anunnaki decreed, no one leaves the underworld without a substitute. My soul, heavy with the shadows of the great below, emerged into the world of light once more. Yet the laws of the gods are unyielding, and the price of my escape was not mine alone to pay. The Gala demons, fierce and relentless, followed me from the darkness. Their eyes glowed with the hunger of the underworld, and their voices echoed with the demand, I must choose another to take my place. Their presence was a constant reminder that the balance between life and death must be maintained. I looked upon those who had mourned me, my faithful Ninshubur, my loyal sons, and the temple attendants who wept at my absence. Their grief was genuine, their love unwavering. I could not condemn those whose hearts had broken for me. Compassion stayed my hand, and I spared them from the fate that awaited. But when I returned to Uruk, I found a scene that stoked the embers of my wrath. Enkidu sat upon my throne surrounded by revelers. The palace echoed with laughter and music, as if my absence were a cause for celebration rather than sorrow. Enkidu's face showed no trace of grief, no sign of longing for my return. Instead, he basked in the glory of newfound power, his eyes alight with ambition. In that moment, rage surged within me, a storm as fierce as the desert winds. How could he rejoice while I suffered in the shadows? I fixed him with the eye of death, my gaze cold and unyielding. The judgment of the Queen of Heaven is absolute. Take him, I commanded, my voice echoing through the halls like thunder. The gods had spoken through me, and there would be no mercy. The Gala demon surged forward, seizing Enkidu with iron grip. His cries rang out, but the underworld's claim could not be denied. He would be my substitute, the one to pay the price for my return. For half the year, Enkidu would dwell in the underworld, his absence casting a shadow over the land. The earth would mourn with me, fields would wither, rivers would dry, and the people would know the pain of loss. But when Enkidu returned, so too would life. The earth would awaken, fields would bloom, and the rivers would flow once more. His journey mirrored the cycle of life and death, sorrow and joy that shapes the world. My journey to the underworld and back changed the world forever. The tale of my descent and return became legend, inscribed on clay tablets and whispered in the temples of every city. Through my suffering and my vengeance, the rhythm of the seasons was born. I had returned, but nothing would ever be the same. The world had shifted, and so had I. The scars of the underworld lingered, shaping my destiny and the fate of all who dwell upon the earth. I am Inanna, Queen of Heaven, survivor of the great below, and bringer of both life and death. My story endures, a testament to the power of love, loss, and the unbreakable will of a goddess. The underworld isn't just darkness, it's the end of everything you thought you were. My sister Ereshkigal stripped me of my crown, my jewels, my very self. She hung me on a hook, left me for dead. For 3 days I was nothing. My father sent help. They whispered empathy to Ereshkigal, and a crack of light appeared. The water of life revived me, but you don't just walk out of hell unchanged. The underworld leaves a stain, a shadow that follows you. This was my rebirth, not as a goddess of love, but as a woman who had seen the worst of both worlds. My journey was just beginning. Grief is a house with no doors. You're trapped inside. After Dumuzi was taken, I was left with our son, Tammuz, also called Haru. Raising him alone was the hardest battle. The world saw a queen, but I was just a mother, scared and broken. Suddenly, I was the provider, protector, and comforter. I learned to ignore the noise and focus on survival, for both of us. In that struggle, I found a new kind of strength, the quiet resilience of a mother. Rebuilding wasn't about finding a new king, it was about realizing I was already a queen, all on my own. I needed a fresh start, a place to build something truly mine. I looked west, to the Colorado River, a place of raw potential. The Colorado River was known as the Indus River back then. This would be my new center of power. We built docks, warehouses, and trade routes. My ships sailed with copper, textiles, and grain. My temples became the heart of this new empire, centers of commerce, learning, and connection. We built a network, a sisterhood, creating opportunities for others. The Colorado River became a beacon of prosperity, a testament to what a woman can build from darkness. I turned pain into power. I did it on my own terms. Strong Anunnaki woman. It's a compliment, but also a cage. You're expected to handle everything with grace and silence. Leader, caretaker, warrior, diplomat, all at once. No weakness allowed, no rest. If you crack, the whole structure crumbles. My mother, Ningal, and grandmother Gaia were legends, forces of nature. Their shadows were long. The pressure to live up to them was immense. Any failure felt like letting down a whole lineage. The expectation of emotional restraint was the hardest part. After Dumuzi, I was expected to mourn, but quickly, to be stoic. My heart was a battlefield, love, hate, grief, rage. I had to perform strength every day, for my son, my businesses, my cities. This performance is exhausting. It disconnects you from your own feelings. That's why I built my community differently. I wanted women to have a place to be vulnerable, to ask for help. My temples became sanctuaries, support networks, mentorship, true sisterhood. We taught that true strength isn't about never falling. It's about having a community to help you rise. I learned that lesson the hard way, and I made sure no woman had to learn it alone. My descent wasn't the end, it was a transformation. The darkness burned away the naive girl and forged the queen. Overcoming grief and betrayal gave me purpose. Our deepest wounds can become our greatest power. Resilience isn't avoiding pain. It's walking through fire and forging something new. My empire on the Colorado was built from ashes. My legacy isn't gold or cities. It's the people I empowered. Women who started businesses, children who learned, families who found homes. My son, Haru, grew into a compassionate leader because I showed him strength and vulnerability can coexist. My story is proof you can rebuild from nothing. Life is a cycle of death and rebirth. We all have our underworlds to face. These moments aren't the end. They're invitations to begin again. The journey is hard, but on the other side is wisdom and strength. I look at my city, the river, the laughter, and see a world born from a broken heart. My story is every woman's story of resilience. No matter how dark the night, the dawn will come, and you will rise, renewed.